You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast. Stories of overcoming obstacles and finding self-empowerment with Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader. The Oxford Dictionary describes permission as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing, consent, authorization. What if you were that someone and you gave yourself the permission to be everything you wanted to be and more? No more playing small and accepting less than. You are worthy of the life of your dreams, regardless of what it is that you've been through. And honestly, it's exactly what you've been through that has shaped you into the version of yourself that you are now. Like a diamond, you've endured so much, but instead of breaking, you have become stronger and brighter. And if that's not a reason to shine, then I don't know what is. And if nature can do it, then why the hell can't you? You are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are enough. Hear my call and give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't realise how many people are inspired by your light. Hi everyone, welcome back. This is episode 45 and I'm really excited to introduce to you a very long lost friend that recently got back in contact with me, and I'm so excited for all of the work she's doing because it's so important. But yeah, Jessie, nice to see you.
Guys, hi, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really good.
Amazing. So please tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Amazing. So I'm Jess and I create magic for singles that are looking for love. So I'm a matchmaker based in London. And what I do is that I make romantic introductions for single people that are looking for longevity and marriage in their life. So that's what I do.
I love that so much. And it's so important. I think that people have that extra guide now, isn't it? Because, like a lot of people don't have success on the apps. And then, we're finding that out and about. People aren't really interacting in that way unless it's for like a quick one too. So I think finding like a real deep connection with people is really important, I think, for sure. So I guess really, how did you get into this field? Because when I knew you, obviously this wasn't what you did. So it'd be really great for the audience to hear your story and the reason why you're doing what you're doing.
Amazing. So I had been in recruitment for about 15 years. So the concept was very similar in terms of finding candidates their perfect job and something that they wanted to be feeling fulfilled in on a daily basis. I myself actually got married at the age of 35. Didn't work out, actually got divorced at 38, but that's okay because it just turned out that we just weren't right for each other. And I then decided, actually, what is it that I really want to do? And what is it that's going to make me want to look for the love of my life? And, what is it that I'm looking for in the next person? Um, so obviously once that had happened and I kind of moved on, had a bit of a journey, went traveling, came back, I had kind of my own time to really go into myself and figure out, do I want to be with someone else? Do I want to meet another man? Happened over a year ago. And since then I've not looked back. And I think for me, it was more so figuring out who I was and what I wanted within myself as a woman. Did I want that deep connection? Did I want that security? And I think for me, it was just my purpose, going out and finding people that had been in similar situations or finding people that were, like you said, at that point where the apps just weren't working for them anymore. And it was a case of, I've gone on so many dates and I'm not finding the right man and I'm not finding the right woman. What can I do? So I just wanted to reach out to the world and say, listen, this is what I do now. I connect you guys as individuals to come together and have your journey as single people, having your own separate lives, but you come together and you make it unique because of how you connect with that person and how you kind of develop that relationship. So again, I think it comes back to my purpose, having been through something as an experience, going through a marriage and a divorce, being, a Sikh Kenyan living in Britain, being part of a community was really frowned upon. And I just thought, actually, no, it shouldn't be like this. It should be a case of, this is what I want. This is what's going to make me happy. And I just help clients achieve that.
I love that so much. And it's so important. There's really quite a few things I'd like to touch on that. One, everything you said about, finding you. I think that's such a key thing, isn't it? And I think, obviously, for the time I knew you, you were in a really long-term relationship. So I guess a lot of yourself you lose in the other person, right? I guess when you got with them younger and you're growing together,
And I think for me, you know, for someone that's spent a long time single, I watched that pattern happen with a lot of couples, is that like both people stopped focusing on what they wanted for themselves, and they kind of just was looking inwards to the partner. And I think that that's obviously what society expects you to do, doesn't it? You know, all of the sayings about finding your other half, all of those things. And actually my ethos has always been, we should always be a whole before we go into that situation. So then, you know, both people cross paths instead of becoming dependent. And I think that's so important for me from being single for so long in my life, that I've built up this whole part of me, like you said, like what you have for yourself. So now you're going to go into a situation where you're like, I know exactly who I am and what I want for myself. You have to add value or not at all. And that really is it for sure. So I love that you touched on that. And I think that obviously that's probably something you work with your clients with as well, for sure, right? And I think then as well, like I just wanted to ask about, you mentioned like the family element to that. Was there a lot of hard conversations on your part that you had to, you know, break the stereotypical thing, right? Because that's not in the norm. So how did that land? And I guess, was that a part of you reclaiming your power in some sense?
Yeah, I guess for me, it was more so that, I just had to say, look, this is what I need to do now. I need to go and figure out who I am. Because I think when you're in a situation, like you said, there's lots of kind of influence from society and cultural things that will make you kind of, you question yourself, right? You're not sure about what it is, what's going to be the right thing to do. So I think, again, I just had to access that inner power, where I think I've always had it. I'm the middle child of three daughters, and I've always been, the wild child as such. And, bless my parents, I feel so bad because I was the only one that I think rebelled against every decision that they wanted for me. So, the marriage, the kids, the 9 to 5 job, the good career, all of that. I was like, nah, this is who I am. This is how I want to live. This is what I want to do. And I think a lot of it as well comes down to how authentic someone can be.
Mm.
You're not aligned with your authentic self, you're just going to clash and be conflicted. And then you're not living the best life that you want. So again, I was like, I can't live this way. I've got to think about my happiness. A lot of people thought it was quite selfish, and that's fine. That's their opinion. But actually, the results that I've had since, and the kind of journey that I've had since, has turned out better. And I think that's what I'm really appreciative of. And I think that's a lot of what my family now can see within me as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I see it in you as well, even though obviously we've only just really reconnected. There's definitely more of a fire within you. I think before there was it was just you were safe. You know, everything was safe, everything was nice, everything was gentle. Whereas now it's like there's a fiery energy to you, which is really lovely to see and be around, because you know that's passion, right? And I think sometimes we forget that passion resides in us. Like we don't have to find it in another person or in a relationship or in a hobby. Actually, just being excited about your everyday life is where passion really starts, doesn't it? I think that's what I talk about with, you know, this little inner flame inside of us that we can amplify the more we give ourselves that permission. So I guess on that point, really, what would you say was that pivotal moment for you where you kind of really did give yourself that permission to be everything that you are now?
I think the moment for me was when I flew out to Miami with work. I flew out again on my own, and I love traveling by myself. But this was literally immediately after I had filed for divorce. So I was in a bit of a mental state where I was like, right, it's good. I'm getting away. It's fine. And I had the best time when I was out there, made loads of new friends, connected with different people, got to meet different personalities. And, I think it was more so I was working and living out there and loving my life, and I had total freedom. And I used
Mm.
carefully, because a lot of people think freedom can mean 100 different things. It means that you can go out and come home whenever you want. It means that you can drive your own car and come and go as you please, that sort of thing. But the freedom that I had was that I didn't feel that burden of being unhappy. I didn't feel that kind of sense of I've got to do this because, it's the right thing to do by society, or I have to talk a certain way or behave a certain way. I was free. And with that freedom came that kind of, like you said, that power, that fire from within, saying, actually, I'm allowed to do this. Actually, I can do what I want within reason out here. And, I want to live the best life that I can. And I did that on and off for the best part of a year. So, you know, to be away from family for that amount of time, to not be connected in a, you know, romantic, intimate relationship with someone for that long, you just have yourself and your own thoughts. And even though I'd come back and people were like, oh my God, you were in Miami, that's amazing, you're so lucky. What they didn't see was me alone in my hotel room. You know, they didn't see that side. People at work didn't see that side. And what I mean is that it's very lonely when you're going through a personal transition or a personal element of growth on your journey. It's the most loneliest thing. And I just thought, you know what, I've had a great experience here. It's time for me to move back to London. I did that. And then I ended up moving out, getting my own apartment, which I'm in now, which I love. So again, I've always had that sense of be independent, do your own thing. But, you know, I think the pivotal point, like you said, was that I was out away from my comfort zone and I was out with people that I didn't know. You know, I didn't have that kind of comfort in America where I could call my mom and be like, I miss you, I just want to have a chat. You know, it was more so I'm a million miles away from home. Now is really time to think and think about life. Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? So yeah, I think that was the turning point for me.
Well, I love that so much. And it's so important what you said there about, you know, feeling alone. I would say the same thing happened for me in the pandemic, where I then started to realize like the childhood trauma stuff, and I started to go through that healing cycle, not realizing everything that I'd been through and just sitting with that. And then I guess same thing in two different ways for both of us is that your loved ones have to watch you transition out of who you was into who you're going to be. And that is lonely in itself, because I'm sure if you were in the UK doing that experience, your family wouldn't relate to you as much, or they'd feel a disconnect. Whereas I guess because you took yourself out of your comfort zone and your safety zone, you got to really fully bloom in that space. And I know it would have been really hard because, like you said, there's no like safety or anything or anyone to lean on as much as you would have done. But I do believe that in autonomy, we find our strength. And I think we all need an element of that. But equally, like you said, you need an element of that alone time. But then you also need to know when you do need to lean on people, and you need to be, again, surrounded and supported with love. But I guess I believe that both things do tie hand in hand. And I do think that with even a relationship, I think you have to have enough time on your own to then be able to feed into the relationship. I don't think it can work the other way. I don't think you can spend a lot of time with your partner and then be on your own here and there. I think you need to be fully embracing and filling your cup up, so then you have something to pour into someone. Otherwise, it's just, you know, I was speaking about this recently. It's like the dregs of you then get up to the surface, and that's why you're agitated or resentful. And yeah, on everything that you said, I can imagine that the old version of you that I knew many years ago would have been a little bit of a people pleaser as well. So I feel like now in the version of you right now is that you're unapologetic. You're like, this is who I am. These are my standards. This is what I want for myself. And that's a great space to be in, to be able to call in someone when you are ready, and when you are looking for that, right? And I think that's what's important, I guess, for me to say to anyone listening that is single, that's like going to look to get into contact with you. You have to know like who you are first, because I don't think it's fair that we go into situations and look for relationships for people to complete us. I really don't think that's fair, and society makes that a really big thing. But I've always known that from like a young person. I think watching so many train wrecks of relationships, I can see fully where people have gone wrong. And it's, you know, the codependency. It's like they're not knowing who they are, so then they depend on the other person to make them who they are, you know. And that is like I guess the old patriarchal version of relationships. Right now, it should be a partnership, I believe. And I think that obviously I'd love to know your views on that, because this is all your field. So yeah, you take the floor.
Yeah, no, 100%, Sherisse. I completely agree with you. It's like you can't decide to get married because you want someone to fulfill your needs of that emotional connection. You know, I think men and women are very different. Men are very logical thinkers. Women come with the EQ and the emotional intelligence. So you've got to find that right balance. And you know, I often speak to clients about, you know, my own kind of relationship right now and kind of what I went through to get it. And, you know, a lot of it was actually writing stuff down. And I have often said this to clients: write down, you know, what you want to manifest, and it will happen. And I wrote down specifics in a list. And within a month, I met my now partner. And it's been, again, like I mentioned before, over a year. But we've got that balance where you've got that encouragement, that support, where we're still very independent, living our lives and, you know, working for ourselves, but then we come together and it's just a nice connect. So I will often say, if you don't have that connection within yourself and you're not waking up each morning saying, I'm happy, I want to grow with somebody, I want to have this part of my journey with someone else and build on that together, don't look for the other person to complete that void for you, because it's just not going to work. So luckily, a lot of my clients, you know, are in, you know, established roles in their life. They're now at the point where it's like all their love tanks are complete and they've kind of got the tick box of the list of what's the next thing to do. So it's really important about discovering yourself and having that time for you, knowing, like you mentioned, who you are, what you want, what your boundaries are, what your acceptance level is. And again, if you go into a relationship saying, this is who I am, accept me for who this is, and it will work, you know, we'll build together. Whereas some people do often go into relationships thinking, I'm still suffering trauma from an ex, or I'm still going through stuff that I'm questioning myself about. I'm, you know, I lost confidence 6 to 7 months ago. I don't know how to get past that. And then they look for it in somebody else. And then it doesn't work, because you're trying to get that person to be there for all of your needs, emotionally, physically, you know, mentally, all of that. And I think if you've got that down to a T, and you won't get it right all the time. We're human beings, right? We're going to have days where it's harder than others. But I think if you really have got that connection within yourself and you're being authentic and you're doing what you're doing daily for what you want from life, then it's going to be easier to have that with a partner.
Absolutely. You're speaking my language. I was nodding along like a nodding dog there. I was like, absolutely. And I wanted to mute myself because I wanted you to just have full flow. But yeah, I completely agree with you. And that's actually a massive part of the work that I teach about the writing down stuff. And it's so crazy that it's so accurate, you know, like you can't write it, I literally can't write it, because it is that thing that it's almost like you create like a connection with the universe when you write something down. And that's whether it's your something releasing it, or if you're calling it in, whatever it is, there's something so magical about that. And that's the reason why I created my journal in the first place, was because all of the prompts that I was using for myself in my healing journey, I was like, other people will be able to, you know, help themselves using this as well. And it definitely works, you know, like all of the clients that I work with, and I give them the prompts and I can just figure that out from just knowing them what they need to write down. But equally, you know, using it to manifest, I think if you're not specific, the universe doesn't know what to bring you. That's one of my really close friends. She said that to me years ago. And she used it in a way of like life, not necessarily a relationship, but it's crazy when you use it in relationships too. And I think, you know, a massive thing there, on a side note to that, when you said about losing your confidence, you really have to find that for you. No one else is going to give that to you. And I think, you know, that's a really important part, is that, and you know, I get asked this a lot when I was like looking for a relationship, and or, you know, from people that are dating experts that I have conversations with, and they'd say, would you be in a relationship with you? And I think until you can say, yes, actually, I'm the person I'm looking for, that's when you'll know you're ready. But I think until then, we have to have those honest conversations with ourselves and look at ourselves in the mirror. Like you said, accept yourself fully. You know, you may not be the body weight that you want to be, but are you still beautiful? Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
But you have to feel it, don't you? And I think that's such an important thing. But confidence is a real issue, I think, that across the board, you know, for men and women. And I think what people get into the mistake of is looking for validation in others, and then they create a codependency, and then an anxious attachment style, and then they can't live their life without knowing that someone thinks they're good looking. Like if the partner doesn't message them and say, oh, you look lovely today, they get annoyed, and then it ruins their whole day. You know, it creates these really toxic cycles. And I know that sounds extreme to people that don't live in those spaces, but people that live in those spaces are probably listening to this thinking, yeah, you're right, absolutely that. So it is really everything, I say across the board, everything is so deep. There's never a surface level to any of this stuff, and it's really important. But I guess I'm really intrigued in I guess the people that come to you, what are the common things that I guess you can see as to why they're single?
Good question. Common things. I guess it's more so the majority of them, it's because they've not had a good experience with dating someone before. So again, if you're in a relationship, it's going to work, it's going to succeed, right? You're going to have those good and kind of bad days as well, but you make it work, you keep going. I think for a lot of people, it's, are they happy in their career? Are they happy with where they're at in their life? Are they happy with now looking at the last thing that they want to fill, like you said, in that glass, in that love tank? So it is going to be, now I'm ready to get married, and I'm ready because it could be an age factor, it could be society, it could be a cultural thing, it could be because they've done everything else that they want in their life, and now they want to again go back to what the conventional standard way of living is: get married, have the 2 or 4 children, and continue their journey. But every reason is different. I had one particular client actually a couple of weeks ago who said, I want to get married for love. And I've never had a client say that to me. So when I heard the words, I want to get married for love, of course I had to dig deeper and be like, right, what does this mean? Where is this going? And again, it's very much a personal thing for people. Marriage is something that's quite sentimental to people. It's the final part of your life as a singleton. You're going into a journey now with someone else, and you're going to build with that person and have your happily ever after. So once I got to kind of questioning, her and kind of going through stuff, it was more so, I want to get married for love because I have loads of love to give. I love who I am, and I want to share that with somebody else. And I want to be able to make that person also feel the love level that I'm on at the minute. And it was a totally different conversation that I've had. And it was just so nice and insightful to hear someone actually say, this is the reason. It's not because I have to, because my parents are asking me to, because I'm 35 and I'm never going to find a man. It was, I want to love somebody actually, and I can do that because I love myself, and I want to do it in a way where that's my person and I want to have that with them.
That's so lovely. And yeah, I think that really resonates actually with kind of where I was at, like towards the end of last year. I feel like I really noticed last year that there was gaps of my healing that I needed to do for myself. And then when I kind of realized that I needed to do that, I spent about 6 to 8 months really working on that. So then when I did go on the dating apps again, I went on the dating apps with coached experience, because another guest that I had on, Jenny, actually, if anyone's listening, she's got a set checklist that she goes through like when she's dating, and I asked myself the questions that she asked, and then that gave me real clarity. But exactly for that reason, like I was like, you know what, my safety mechanism is to be independent. And I feel like, as much as that's been incredible and I've done amazing things in my own life, I was like, I'm ready to build now with someone. And I think that was a really nice, healthy space to go into something with, because then there's no weight on it. I think when we go into that, I think, like you were saying, I think when you're pressured to think, I have to find someone because of a deadline, to meet expectations, family stuff, whatever it is, then you have a weight on you to find someone for a specific thing. Whereas when you just go into a space of being like, you know what, I'm a pretty amazing person, and I'm sure that there's someone amazing out there for me too, and I know I'm worthy of it, that's when it all comes in. And that's the key point for me in everything, is that you have to feel worthy and deserving of it. Otherwise it just won't come, or it won't be what you want it to be, because you're too busy chasing. It's like manifesting, right? It's like, there's a gap between you and your manifestation, but all the time you can live in that vibration of having the thing that you want instead of wanting it. That's when it comes. And I think that, you have to be the embodiment of what it is you want to receive. So if you want a healthy relationship, you have to be in a healthy relationship with yourself first. So I love that this is all interconnected. It's really nice that, that this is meaningful as well, because I feel like a lot of people might think, oh yeah, I'm just going to get with a dating coach and matchmaker's going to find me someone perfect. But it's actually quite deep, isn't it? Which is really important.
Super deep. A lot of it, you know, people tend to think, oh, well, you know, I'm an attractive man, I just want to find a hot girl and that's it. It doesn't stop there. There's so many more layers that I need to uncover doing the job that I do, because it's about that deeper connection. So I, based on personality and looks, it goes way deeper than that. So it's about funneling down to what it is that clients want as specifics, as opposed to general requirements of meeting someone new.
Nice. Yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more about that, like your process in what you kind of look for with your clients. Like what are some of the key points that you kind of look for them?
So again, it's all based on their criteria. You know, how long they've been looking for, last relationship status, what it is that's going to be, you know, the deal breaker for that particular person, what it is that they want to bring to the relationship as well, what they're looking for, age range, location, you know, physical appearance, that kind of thing. So it's kind of going through all of those intricacies of their requirements and then nailing down how I'm going to find that person for them, and what's going to be that kind of one thing that's going to be their kind of drawing point, you know, to that partner. So it could be that, I don't know, a very basic commonality. They both have to have dogs and they both like to go dog walking, for example. Or it could be that they're both adventurous in water sports. Or it could be that they both live within, I don't know, a 10-mile radius of each other. So there's so many different like basic points that I kind of look at. But then the deeper stuff is based on their mentality and their mindset. So is someone that, you know, is a woman that's coming to me saying, look, he's got to be 6 foot, he's got to work out in the gym, I want him to have tattoos, I want him to have a 6-figure salary. That's all great. That's your checklist of what you want in a man. But then equally, I have to ask the question, if I find that, what are you going to then bring to the relationship as well? Because this is quite a high requirement that you want. Equally, I could have a guy that could say to me, you know, I don't really care about her job, but she's got to be a nice girl. She's got to be humble. She's got to have this. She's got to have the family values. And I'm like, that's great. Well, what are you then going to bring to that? So there's a level of expectation with my clients as well. And I've got to be real with them and say, look, if you are asking for that, you know, for that high paying CEO in a relationship, what's the kind of thing that you're going to bring into that? You know, and a high level rather CEO isn't going to want for flowers and gifts and, you know, material things. He's got it all, right? That's what he does. He's able to do that for himself. So I do often explain to men and women what the difference is and what kind of criteria can go to. So men are very simple. They want the EQ from a woman. They want the affection. They want the cuddles, and they want to be told that they're a good man. Women, complete opposite. They want someone who's going to, you know, look after them, tell them that they're beautiful, tell them that they're an amazing woman, tell them that, you know, they look nice, tell them that they are, you know, a great cook. So they want all of that kind of, again, those compliments, that kind of affection from a man, you know. But again, there's got to be a balance. You know, you've got to be giving that to your man as well. As long as you're kind of putting in to the relationship with everything else as well.
Yeah, absolutely that. And I think that was a really key point there, because I always say that everything's a mirror. So like how you feel about yourself is obviously presented back to you. So you can't expect your partner to be showering you in compliments and all of the things, and you're not willing to do the same. And I do understand that thing about, you know, like a CEO's mindset. You know, if you are someone that is not a CEO and you don't run your own business and you're maybe employed in a bakery, for example, you'll never understand the same mindset as a CEO. So I personally think that unless you are really content in your job and really happy in working in a bakery, there's no way that relationship would work, because there has to be an alignment of drive. For me, that in my head, that makes sense, because I go based on Harville Hendrix's Imago theory. So, you know, like you find the trauma in someone else. So there could be a connection where, you know, maybe the lady that works in a bakery is a really nurturing person and the CEO never had that. So then they find that completion. But I think there'll always be a little bit of, you know, if both people aren't motivated to some extent, there'll always be something stale there. Now, I could be completely wrong on that, but that's my own opinion, is that there has to be some sort of equal value. Because someone that is a CEO is going to be working all hours of the night, is going to be, you know, on their phone all the time. And I think unless you appreciate someone's hard work, you always see it as, oh, they're always working. You know,
Yeah.
that's something you hear a lot, isn't it? In relationships, you always hear, you know, maybe if the lady, you know, stays at home with the kid, you always say, oh, he's always at work, or he's always doing this, you know. And I think if you sign up for that when you get into it, then you know that that's what that is. And equally, why don't you busy yourself too? You know, I think we can't be, like we said, looking for people to complete us at all. But it is so complex, and I think that, well, it's complex but also easy. I'm sure for you, when you see the candidates come up on paper, you can literally just be like, okay, well, this works.
Yeah.
But then I guess it's the deeper connection, isn't it? Because I guess that's something you can't create, is that if there is going to be a spark or a connection there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's through having, you know, really like intensive conversation with all of my clients and just really pinning down, you know, what it is that they want, especially if someone has already been through that kind of trauma of a marriage, divorce, you know, children, ex-partners, that sort of thing. But again, because they're going into something with me, I'm able to qualify, you know, number one, if they're 100% ready. Number two, if they're just trying to fill a void because, again, based on society or culture, or they're being forced, or feel like they need to force themselves, or just that, you know, they're lonely and they want somebody. So all of these factors aren't going to give them the person that they want, because they're not thinking with here. They're just thinking, what's the right thing? You know, what should I be doing, sort of thing. So yeah, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, for sure. It is it's crazy, but almost not, isn't it? Because I think if anyone's watched the Indian Matchmaker on Netflix, I guess it's really similar to that. I think that when you told me about what you were doing, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I watched that. I know what that is. But you know, the success rate, and even Paul Brunton, you know, the guy that's on Married at
Oh,
First Sight.
yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about that there's a real higher success rate of people that have been arranged, like marriages, compared to people that go and find it for themselves.
Mhm.
So there's something in it for sure. And maybe the way the world's going right now is that we will end up leaning into that, because I don't think people are, you know, I know a lot of people that have found success through dating apps, but equally you get a fair share of people that haven't. But again, I think intention's a massive part of that. You know, like if you intend that it will be rubbish experience, then you'll always have a rubbish experience. Whereas if you can change your thought pattern and be like, actually, maybe there is someone good on here because I'm good, then you'll find that. But the matchmaking thing for sure is really, really interesting. I'm so intrigued by all of it. But I guess in this, like, what would you say the biggest challenges for you as a human, like in this experience of looking and finding that for people?
The biggest challenge for me, I think, it's when I speak to clients, and a lot of what I ask them, the first question is, right, what is it that you're looking for? And a lot of them don't know. And
Mm,
oh, that's, you know, I've never been asked this before. Okay, I need to think about this now. And I'll often say to them, look, it's something that you need to force yourself to think about, because it's what you're now looking for. Whereas before, you're just on a dating app, you're like swiping, you're thinking, yeah, she's nice, he's nice, because you're going on face value only. You only see this. You don't know what they sound like, you know, what their personality is like. So a lot of the challenge has been, oh my God, I don't know. How do I do this? And that's when I'm like, right, grab a pen, get a pad, write it down, and be specific with that. So that goes back to the whole manifestation, that ties into it. But a lot of it as well is, I think that a lot of my clients have that fear factor within themselves, right? Because it's out of their comfort zone. They've never like used a matchmaker before. They've used online dating platforms. It's very easy because they're hiding behind a screen. They post some great pictures of themselves, they write some content, and it's out there and people can see it. And I think for me, it's more so you're now going to that next stage with me because you're actually going to have an introduction with somebody. You know a bit about this person, they know a bit about you. You're on each other's radars right now. So all you need to do is just turn up and you're physically meeting. And I think for them, it's a lot more of a nervous thing because they know that I've been in talks with this potential person for them. So they know that it's not just a, you know, swipe. You know, it might be that this person might not even turn up. Okay, I've got that stuff to think about. You know, it's whatever it is. But with me, it's very different because they know that I crack down on the kind of psychology behind all of this, how it's going to work, what their first date's going to be like. So yeah, a lot of it is the fear factor within people that want to work with me, and also not really knowing what it is that they want until they talk to me.
Yeah, for sure. That makes so much sense. And that's kind of, I think, how people live life as well. Like the points you've just said there, a lot of people don't know what they want for their life in general, let alone a partner. And that's something that I ask a lot of people too, when they come to work with me, is like, okay, like I can dissect your trauma and the things that have held you back, the fears, all of those things I can work with. But ultimately, what is the goal? Like, do you want to feel more confident, more empowered, rah, rah, rah? Do you want to be looking for a better job? Or, all of those things are, things that I ask too. So it crosses over so well. And I think fear as well, just on this from like a subconscious perspective, is that if you have just come out of a relationship that was bad, and or you've always seen bad relationships, you have to create a new narrative with your mindset in order for you to then receive something that's good. And that is deep work. Like, that's all trauma healing work. So that's something that won't happen overnight.
Mhm.
But as well, on the fear of coming to you, it's putting yourself in a vulnerable position, because actually it takes the control out of your own hands. And I think that's the thing with life, is that we feel like we have a false sense of control, especially with online dating. You feel like you're in control, you can swipe, you can speak to people. Whereas when you're giving that over to someone else, that is scary. But equally, how we do that with a lawyer, or, I don't know, anything, banker, we give them our money and our time because we trust their perspective. If you have a business, you might go to a business consultant. All of those things are important. So I think for people that are on the fence about it, why would you not invest in an expert to help you with that? And I think we should just be normalizing that just in general anyway, just to
Yeah.
be looking for, people that know better than us, because we don't know everything. There was I think it's Neville Goddard, and he started the whole what's it called, mastermind thing, where you get loads of experts together in a space, and then you
Mm.
all just like hash things out. And I'm part of a mastermind with yeah, my business mentor. So I think it's really important that we can normalize the fact that actually we're not supposed to have it all figured out, but there's people out there that do. And why would we not invest our money and time into that? Because ultimately they're going to get us to where we want to be a lot quicker than us trying to figure things out, because that's another thing. But I do think that we can't sit in fear. I think it's important to identify fear and to be okay with it, to vocalize it. But fear will ultimately always hold you back in the end, because it wants to keep you in what you've always known. So like I said, if you've always known failed relationships or toxic situations, that's what your fear will create for you. Whereas if you can accept that and say, okay, that doesn't serve me anymore, I want to create a new narrative, that's where we take our power back and then step into obviously the version of ourselves we want to be, but also that creates the healthy relationships in all across the board, friends, work, everything. So yeah, I love how this is all interconnected, and just from like a really heart-led place. I think that's so important, especially with dealing with people's hearts, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very different to speaking to clients now, being like, what job are you looking for? What salary? What location? I mean, that I can do in my sleep, and even
Mm,
it's more so conversations get deep, that
mm,
I'm like, right, I understand this person now. I know what it is that they need. But it's also coming back to that fear factor. You just need to take the plunge and just do it. And if, you know, all matchmakers out there were super successful and it was done, there wouldn't be single people still looking for love, if that makes sense. If the dating apps were a massive success, there wouldn't be any single people left in the world, again, still looking for that connection and that love. And I often do say to clients, look, sleep on it, have a think, and they will always come back and say, right, I think I'm ready, because it's something new. And again, fear of the unknown is what's going to stop you, like you said. But like I say to everybody, fear is that false evidence appearing real. It doesn't exist. It's all in here. And there are, I'm sure, as you know, and that you've probably coached most of your clients as well, there are ways and things that you can, deal with it and get over it and come out of it. But you've got to also face it at the same time. So if you are someone who's now been on dating apps for 5 years and you're having date after date and there's no success, this is where I then come into play. And this is where I have that conversation with you and say, look, this is what we need to figure out. This is what we're going to work on. And this is now your journey with me.
yeah, I love that so much. And absolutely, I say the same thing. I'm like, the only way to get through it is through it. You can't go over it, round it, under it. You've got to go through the middle of it. And that's when you elevate to the next level. And then, you know, even with that, every level is another devil. So when you are in a relationship, there'll be demons that come up again then, and you've got to go through that again. But if you don't go through it, you stay stuck, or you sabotage everything that you want for yourself. So absolutely that. And I do think there's a lot of people in this world that, like you said, have been on apps for a really long time. They haven't worked for them. And I think to those people as well, I would ask them, you know, are you happy with you? Because that's the first question. And if you can say, yes, genuinely, I'm really happy with who I am, then they need to contact you 100%. Because this is the thing, right? You don't want to be taking in people that are still need to work on themselves, because I guess that's hard for you then, right? It makes your job a lot more difficult, and also waste their time. You know, like, I think for everyone looking for love, you have to be okay with you first, and we've said that a few times. But I hope that then on the back of that, you're like, right, I've worked on me, I feel confident in who I am now, I'm ready to let love in. That's when obviously you are the key person for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. I think it's amazing. And especially to have someone that is like young and, like, you know, knows her stuff. I think it's great because it's like the modern day version, isn't it, of, you know, I guess Seema Auntie on Indian Matchmaker. And
Yeah.
obviously
I mean,
that's
I
not
work
your client.
a lot, and predominantly it was mostly for research. There's some things I agree with, some things I don't. But I mean, her concept is super clever. And, you know, people go to her because they trust that she's going to do the right thing and find who it is that these people want. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But with me, there's a lot more of a journey before I just say, here's a bio data, read it, have a look. He's nice, she's nice. Let's do this. It's a lot deeper.
And even Paddy, that she's Millionaire Matchmaker as well, isn't she? She
Yeah.
does similar things. So when you said to me about it, I was like, I know exactly what you're doing, and I'm here for it. But even all of the programs that you watch, like Married at First Sight, that's all the same thing. It's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I got hooked to maths because there was one time, I think back in 2019, 2020, it was before I got married. And I was just channel flicking and I was like, what's coming on? And it was a scene where the therapist were on the couch and they were coaching one of the couples. And some of the stuff they were saying just really resonated. And I was like, what is this? And I'm not a big fan of trash TV, but hooked. And now I'm obsessed with maths, and it's really bad for me to say that is my guilty pleasure. But just watching how the therapists coach them and guide them and kind of look for alternatives in how to resolve an argument and how to, you know, have a nice date with someone and how to compliment somebody, how to just give someone a hug without even speaking, all of these things, you know, the verbal versus non-verbal, it's just so inspiring and kind of just really nice to see and understand that actually it's the whole psychology behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually, when I've ever watched it, that's always been my interest in it as well. I'm not a person that watches like soaps or anything like that, but my mum loves all of those shows. So sometimes I've had to sit and watch with it through her, watch it with. Honestly, I can't speak today. It's Saturday. I'm like, yeah. I'm the same. Like, when I've ever watched something like that, the psychology behind everything is what's important to me. And a lot of the things that they say are what I would say to a client myself. So I'm like, yes, that's how you know they're good at their job, because you're like, yeah, I resonate with that for sure. So that's amazing. But yeah, I guess, you know, you're doing great things, and I'm excited to kind of see your success rate increase and improve and all of the things. So how can people find you if they want to book a session or book, you know, your time?
Sure. So I'm all over everywhere. So I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I have my own website. You'll find me at you'vemetyourmatch.com. And yeah, I mean, just get in touch and, you know, we can connect and speak. And I think it's just, if you've thought about it, but you've never done it, I think it's just time to kind of think, you know, I'm here to help you. It's something that I think, again, like you mentioned earlier, it's a lifelong investment. You know, you're investing into your essential happiness, as well as somebody else's. But yeah, that's where people can find me. So yeah, you'vemetyourmatch.com. Go to the website.
Yes, and I will put all the links in the bio so people can find you really, really easily. I guess something that I do as a closing tradition is I have like a soul to soul message. So like if there's anything that you feel like based on our conversation today you want to share, maybe something you would say to your younger self, like whatever comes up that you want to share, it's yours.
Okay. I guess, guys, the last kind of message that I want to leave with everyone is, before you get into a relationship, find the one within yourself, be authentic and true to yourself. I've also published a book back in 2023. It took me 3 years to get it out because of the fear, but it is out there. It's on Amazon. It's called Author of Authentic. And it's basically about living the life that you want and being content in that, and always wanting to grow and develop and be the best version of you that you can be. So once you've established that and you bring that into a relationship, it will create magic.
Oh, I love that. And yes, we'll put the link to the book in there as well, so people can find that for sure. But thank you so much for coming on. It was lovely to have you. And yeah, if anyone is looking for the services you provide, please do head to the links for sure. But thank you so much.
Thank you. See you soon.
If this episode resonated with you, please do like, follow and share with someone that you know would benefit. If you're looking to dive in deeper to becoming your most unapologetic, most authentic, shining self, please do head to my website and join my newsletter, where you will find out about all of my upcoming events and speaking opportunities and all of the things that I have going on. And also, if you would like to work with me, please do drop me a DM on any of my socials or through my website. Love and light.